Here we go again. Every time there's a game about to be released with potential, it automatically becomes subject to this phenomenon infamously known as review bombing. This is nothing new though. Ever since the end of physical Game Informer magazines, when we resorted to the internet and now solely rely on it for information, it's very easy to see the negative being conflated with the positive. Unfortunately, no game nowadays is safe from such criticism. Here's an article from gamingbible.com where this issue has been highlighted. There are more, but I'll just reference this one. They said, Starfield isn't even out for another few weeks, and yet the games community is already deeply concerned about incoming review bombing efforts. For those that might not be aware, review bombing is something that people with no friends like to do. They'll head to a website like Metacritic and work in packs to shower a game with unfair low scores, usually zeros and ones, and over the pettiest things. I honestly wasn't really familiar until now about criticisms and reviews like this, because if I research a game personally that I'm interested in, my own perspective is the only thing that matters, my own experience. I guess the purpose of this video is to let those know who aren't familiar with this stuff not to worry about it at all. And people who already know the history of Bethesda game studios, the projects they've produced, can vouch for what I'm saying. And listen here, I'm not naive in a sense that I think Starfield will be the greatest game ever with no problems, nor will I excuse unacceptable issues. What's important to me is, for one, the transparency these devs should portray when there's an issue that needs to be addressed. This is the first step to a game being successful at launch and for its longevity. Now, these unknown reviewers and critics gave Starfield very low scores based on petty things like potential bugs the game might have. Despite this ridiculous notion, there will be bugs. This is a very large and ambitious project, and I expect nothing less. Let's just hope they're not as astronomically game-breaking like Cyberpunk was. I do think that Cyberpunk is in a way better place, by the way, but still, that's years later, and we want Starfield to have the least amount of bugs possible. And when they do have them, be able to fix them quick and efficiently. But scratch all that. These people haven't even played the game. Nobody has. You really can't even call these reviews, and I honestly don't know how they garner so much attention. So instead of putting energy into that, let's prove why you should be an optimist about Starfield going in. It's very important that game companies establish a strong track record of what they've done in the past. For as long as I can remember, their games have been on point. I remember when I first played Oblivion, and now that I think of it, understand how ahead of its time that game was. Maybe not graphically, but conceptually. Oh my god. It had me thinking, I can do that? Like when I first escaped the dungeon after being locked up, the sneaking that improved my stealth the more I engaged in it, or after finally getting out of there, seeing the open world and making my way to a tavern to the northeast, having the freedom to attack anyone there, exercising my free will to test somebody's nuts who's looking at me wrong. I mean, just this concept alone is next level. Oblivion didn't only have stealth either, free will and other combat focused skill upgrades, but so many more. And I'm not done, because I'm trying to drive this point home. It leads to why Starfield has such great potential, so just hear me out. I'm almost done. Let's talk about an experience I had in Fallout New Vegas. There was a faction called Caesar's Legion. They're what you call a cult. They had slaves and lived in an area governed by an oppressive regime. There was a side mission wherein one of them were captured. My character was tasked to interrogate him to see where their encampment was in order to liberate some of the slaves and just topple their regime in general. Well, fortunately, my intelligence stat was up very high on my character skills. So I was able to open an entire new dialogue chain while interrogating this guy. I spoke the language they spoke within the Caesar's Legion. This literally blew my mind. Fallout New Vegas came out 13 years ago. So think of how this one aspect will evolve in Starfield. By the way, in Starfield there's a social tree that focuses on NPC interactions, including improving the character's pickpocketing ability, getting discounts at stores, increasing your relationship gain when completing NPC quests, or even being able to tame alien creatures temporarily in combat. So however you like to engage the enemy, be it through peaceful resolution or by expertise in battle, is your choice. I'm getting a little too excited, aren't I? Well, it's only because games like these are what I'm passionate about. When developers put so much love and attention to detail in their games, it means that playing that game will be all the more satisfying. So don't worry at all about what these skeptics may say. It doesn't matter. Those who know, know. And if you don't, You will soon enough. Starfield releases on Steam, Xbox, and PS5 September 6th. Which edition will you be getting? Let me know in the comments below. Also tell me what you think about what I said. Thanks for listening to the end. If it was insightful to you in any way, I'd appreciate a like on the video. Also subscribe to my channel if you're new here. I will be covering this game extensively, and I'd like to think that you'd enjoy my content. I'll see you in my next video. Be right out.